There it is.
Good morning and welcome to all. It's 9:00 a.m., so at this time I'll call our February 1st, 2023 regular meeting of the Chesterfield County Council to order. First, I'll have a brief prayer, and then we'll do our pledge of allegiance to the flag. Would you pray with me, please? Our most gracious Heavenly Father, it is with grateful hearts that we come to you today. We have been blessed so much that sometimes we forget how fortunate we are. We pray for your continued blessings on our county's citizens, our county employees, law enforcement personnel, first responders, and our administrative staff. We ask for your guidance as we go about our work on behalf of the citizens that we all represent. We pray these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Before we adopt the agenda, I think there's a need to amend our agenda. Mr. Ruffner, would you handle that, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding that there's a need to amend the agenda to delete item 10C1 to gather additional information, and also to add item 13A under unfinished business concerning a request from the Sandblast Rally to use Overflow Road from approximately 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. during the Sandblast Rally. Pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, if council does amend the agenda to include this item, since it's going to be voted on today, there would need to be a finding that exigent circumstances exist. And I think those exigent circumstances would be the fact that the rally is scheduled to take place on Friday, March 3rd. And although there is a council meeting that Wednesday before, the organizers would need to know if this road is going to be included or not for planning purposes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda? Motion by Conklin, second by Smallwood. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We need to approve the minutes of our January the 4th, 2023 regular meeting. If there are no corrections or deletions, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Ford, second by Mr. Rivers. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We moved, let's see, the bonds, we have bonds
Passing them.
going around to be signed now. Our appointments, today we welcome back Ms. Stephanie Kahn with our auditing firm. Would you please come forward?
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you guys? Thank you for having me here this morning. So we are looking back at the June 30th, 2022 audit, and I'm gonna just try to be brief with it, and because I know it is 6 months after the fact, but sometimes that's just how it goes. So the first thing I want to go over is this 3-page letter. This is our required communication to those charged with governance, which is you, council. Basically, the first part kind of talks about our responsibilities for the audit. Our responsibility is to express an opinion based on reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement, and to conduct the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with GAAP. And management is also charged with maintaining appropriate internal controls over financial reporting. If we do find any deficiencies in controls, we are required to communicate that to you, and we did identify some. And you should have a copy of a separate letter, which is a management letter, and it kind of entails the deficiency that we identified in the treasurer's office and has recommendations to correct it. Now, I know you've had some turnover in the treasurer's office, so hopefully when y'all can fill that position, you know, things can get back under control. The planned scope and timing of the audit, it was delayed due to the treasurer issues. And We are required to communicate to you your sensitive estimates. So in your financial statements, there are estimates. These would include your depreciation expense, your allowance for doubtful accounts with taxes receivable, and your net pension liability and total OPEB liability. We reviewed these estimates, and they are reasonable. We had no disagreements with management. If we did, we would be required to communicate that to you. And to our knowledge, there were no other consultations with other accountants besides just someone coming in and helping the treasurer's office reconcile. So that is that letter in a nutshell. And the next thing I wanted to go to is this little one-pager that I created this year. And it just kind of summarizes your financial statements, and so that you're not flipping through the book while I'm kind of going through everything. So you'll see at the top, at the audit summary, are opinions. So this year, we also had to do a compliance examination report on your ARP funds. And last year, we were under the impression you would be required to have a single audit. Well, the feds came out and said, that's a little too hard on everybody if the only reason why they spent enough federal funds was because of these ARP funds, you know, we don't want to make it more burdensome on these counties. So what they did is they did like this alternative procedure, and that's what I did. It was a compliance examination report, and basically I looked at your ARP funds and made sure that you spent the funds in accordance with the OMB compliance supplement. And you did, so therefore I issued an unmodified opinion. So that's the best opinion I can give. And then you also see the financial statement opinion. So that's a separate report from your financial statements, and it's literally just a report, one pager. And we submitted that to the federal government, so they have that. Your financial statement opinion is unmodified. That's the best opinion we can give. That means that your financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the county, which means you should be able to rely on these financial statements. Now I'm just going to dive into the numbers a little bit. So off to the left, you see the government-wide financial summary. So basically what the government-wide financial statements do is they combine all your funds together, and they include your capital assets and your long-term obligations. So the intent of your government-wide financials is to provide a broad, long-term overview of the county's finances, similar to a private sector business. So as you can see, you had total assets at June 30th of $55 million. 16.5 million of that was cash, and 15.9 million of that was investments. So that's a great position to be in. You're not relying on your TANs and whatnot to make it through the lull of your tax collections. That your assets also included about $20.5 million of capital assets net of depreciation. So your liabilities, you were sitting at about 52.1. So about 10.4 million of that is your long-term debt. Only 1.9 million of that is due within 1 year. And then 15.1 million of that is your net pension liability, and 15.9 million of that is your total OPEB liability. Remember, those are based on actuarial valuations. They're not due all at one time. It's there to make people aware that, hey, you've guaranteed people these payouts, and they want to make you accountable for them. But let's be honest, the bond people pull that number out for anything they use it for. So the other thing that you had in your liabilities is unearned revenue. So you had like $7.8 million of that. Most of that is your ARP funds. So you still have a good chunk of ARP funds that you can spend over the next few years. So that's great. So your net position for the year was $3.6 million. That's an increase of $3 million from the prior year. That's great. And I think the bulk of that has to do with your ARP funds that you've expended and were able to recognize the revenue. And then you also received a lot of lost revenue, a lot more than you had anticipated, which I've actually seen across the board around all counties. So that's good. Then in the middle, you have your governmental fund summary. So basically, this is all your funds of the county. You'll see the general fund is first, and your major funds that we had to present were your capital reserve fund, your capital equipment fund, and all your other smaller funds get lumped together in this non-major governmental funds. So at the end of the year, you were looking at about $25.2 million sitting in fund balance between all your funds. And then down at the bottom, you'll see your general fund summary. So what I did is I kind of summarized it, and you have 22's actual compared to 21, the difference between that, and then compared it to your budget. And so what you're looking at is your total revenues for just general fund were $24.9 million. That's $3.6 million over budget, and that, again, has to do with your ARP funds and your lost revenue. Your expenditures for $24.7 million for the fiscal year, that's $1.4 million over budget. Well, you had extra grant money, so you spent more money, so that makes sense. Your other financing sources and uses, if you'll see, you're under budget by $2 million, and that is because you did not have to do a transfer from the capital reserve fund to help float the general fund. You had budgeted that, but you didn't need it, so that's great. You know, I get asked, what is a healthy fund balance? And we generally say 3 to 6 months worth of general fund expenditures. You're sitting at about a month and a half right now in general fund, but keep in mind you have that capital reserve fund of $18.9 million sitting in another fund to help you whenever you need it. So between the two, you're in a very good position. And then I briefly put up here, back up in the middle, was your fiduciary funds. So those are your funds that the treasurer and the clerk of court and the magistrate hold. And so last year we had to start presenting it a little differently with a new accounting guidance. And so I just wanted you to see that you have about $29 million sitting there that belongs to other governmental entities, other claimants, that kind of thing. And you'll see the ins and outs of it. You've got almost $119 million coming in and $115 million coming out within a fiscal year. So that's a lot of money that's being held on behalf of other governments. That's not your money. That's basic. Most of that is going to be what's sitting at the treasurer's office, where they're collecting tax revenue and then turning around and dispersing it to the other governments. So, I think that is that in a nutshell. Let me make sure yes, I did go over that. So, do you guys have any questions for me?
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Khan?
Well, if you find yourselves with questions after the fact, my contact information is up at the top of that little one-pager. Please feel free to contact me whenever with any questions you may have. And we appreciate your business. We appreciate working with you guys and your staff. They're a pleasure to work with. You've got a great finance staff.
Well, thank you
got
very
one.
much for coming. We thank you for this report. Ethan?
I got one question. So without the ARPA money, how would we be looking, for the future? Without that on this same paper, how would our finances be looking?
Well, you're still in good shape because you were anticipating to have to float $2 million from the capital reserve fund to balance your budget. And you only recognized about $1.2 million of ARP funds. So you still would have been in the positive. You still have $7.8 million that's not reflected in that ending fund balance that you haven't spent. So that's why we do that. We defer it so it's not showing up in there and skewing it and making it look like you have that when you really haven't earned it yet.
I was just, when that COVID money runs out, then
It's going to help you get to a good position so that going forward you can maintain. I believe it will. I think it's going to help a lot of counties out to get back where they need to be so that they can move forward and maintain a good, healthy fund balance.
thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? If not, thank you once again. We appreciate your help, and thank you very much for coming and giving us that report today.
All right, thank you very much.
We do need a motion to accept this report. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Ford, second by Mr. Curtis. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next appointment, Ms. Benton. Come on up, Ms. Benton.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here today to give a summary of my request for today. My name is Augustine C. Benton. My purpose for being here this morning is to represent and honor my deceased parents and other deceased residents and property owners who once resided on Everett Baskin Road, located in Sherroll, South Carolina, who requested more than 65 years ago for Everett Baskin Road to be paved. These elderly folks worked hard, tirelessly, wholeheartedly, and they didn't give up, but they didn't win. They only lived to see this progress begin. Mr. Chapel Hirsch was their contact person at that time. He was able to get the road named Everett Baskin Road. The road was widened, staked off. Then Mr. Hirsch moved away to work in Lancaster County, and the process stopped. This road has been in disrepair since that time. The requests have continued, but to no prevail. My mother died at the age of 97, and she did not get to see this road paved. She did not get to see her hard-earned tax-paying money used to give her the same benefits that her neighbors who live right beside her received. I'm standing here also to represent the present residents and property owners who have continuously asked for Everett Baskin Road to be paved up to this present time. For over 65 years now, more than one half century ago, even before this dirt road was named, this request has been made. It is time for this struggle to end. It is time to shift in a new direction. This story deserves to be made public. I have prepared myself to fight a new fight, and I'm claiming what this road and the residents and property owners who reside on this road deserve: equal justice. You must prioritize your allocations of C funds for Everett Baskin Road to be paved, and I will not stop until this is done, because I know we are greater than what others perceive. Even though we've been treated unfairly, we know we are not less than. It is unfair for one population of taxpayers. It is unfair how one population of taxpayers have been misrepresented by the South Carolina Department of Transportation of Chesterfield County. I have lived in this county all of my life, so I'm standing here not saying what I've been told. I'm saying what I have lived to see and what I have witnessed. I have seen these injustices occurring right before my own eyes. I have seen woods that I used to play in as a little girl become transformed into housing developments on both sides of this main road, which now called which now has been named Everett Baskin Road. This road back then was called Calvin Branch Road. This road was not officially state or county named at that time. Later, it was officially given the name Bridlewood Road, and Everett Baskin Road was just a dirt road branching off of this road. Everett Baskin Road is one of the two oldest roads branching off of Bridlewood Road, and it is the only road that is not paved. Although the residents and property owners have continuously made requests for more than 65 years ago up to this present time for this road that has many problems on it to be paved. There is presently a new development that came into existence 3 years ago. This new development is located on the left side of Bridlewood Road and has about 6 houses on it. It is about a block's distance across the road up from Everett Baskin Road. This dirt road that is located in this new development is in perfect condition. The name of this road is Thistledown Lane. This dirt road has already been approved in the year 2022 by this Chesterfield County Division of the South Carolina Department of Transportation to be paved. The C funds that are allocated to Chesterfield County are not being used in a racially equal manner. Everett Baskin Road residents are predominantly 99.9% African Americans. In comparison, the residents on all the other paved roads are made up of about 95% Caucasians. These other roads are not only paved, but are equipped with drain pipes, covered going across roads, paved ditches, elaborately landscaped with rocks, dead-end signs, bevel edges, curbs, etc. The distribution of C funds in Chesterfield County has merits of discriminatory practices, which are being boldly displayed and stands out immediately, even to those who may have problems with their vision. Right now, I am trying to remain professional in my presentation because just standing here, naming these discrepancies makes it hard for me to contain my emotions and my composure. It was even hard for me to get here today in this space to be placed on this agenda to speak. I previously asked to be placed on the agenda on November 7, 2022, and on December 5th, 2022. I was told on a telephone conversation with Mr. Copeland that the December 5th, 2022 council meeting was canceled in order to survey the roads that morning, and that it was uncertain how long that survey would take. So the meeting was canceled for that day. When I went to the website to see if the December 5th meeting had taken place, I found out that a December 7, 2022 meeting was held without my knowledge. And to my surprise, I heard my name being called to speak. The next meeting, January 4th, 2023, my name was still not on the agenda. So I'm glad I'm here today in this space to present my grievances. How do you sleep at night with this type of injustices still occurring in your county? We all pay taxes. We are all humans. I do not accept your humiliation. I'm tired of being minimized, underestimated, and degraded. The people on Everett Baskin Road deserve to be treated the same as our counterparts. We are equal to, not less than. We deserve more than just scraping Everett Baskin Road and patching up from time to time with a road plow and cutting trenches onto our land to divert water onto our properties without our permission, as if our land belongs to the county for its use, eroding our properties and destroying it. All of this has been done countless times on Everett Baskin Road, our location. I have done my homework, and I am prepared to discuss my grievances further with supporting evidence. All department heads have been mailed a certified package on December 8th, 2022. Mr. Sammy Copeland, County Transportation Committee Chairman, Mr. Tard Huggins, Director of the South Carolina Department of Transportation, Mr. Jeff McCarn, Director of Public Works, and the County Administrator, Mr. Timothy L. Eubanks. These packages contain copies of all correspondences that I made to those in charge of roads. Also included in this package were copies of signed agreement forms of the residents and property owners declaring that they are in agreement that they want Everett Baskin Road paved with asphalt with the same care and attention as the surrounding neighboring roads. As of this date, and it has been almost 2 months now, not one of the heads of these 4 departments that I communicated to acknowledged nor responded to my concern. Where is your justice for all, for us? I am frustrated and very discontent because this is what is happening in this division of the South Carolina Department of Transportation of Chesterfield County. The people who live on Everett Baskin Road have been controlled and mismanaged far too long, for over 65 years. We demand a change. I will not stop until the people on this road get what we rightfully deserve. I am asking the division of the South Carolina Department of Transportation of Chesterfield County to do what should have been done long ago, and that is to pave Everett Baskin Road now. I have been confronted with different kinds of struggles all of my life, so this struggle will not deter me. I have always continued through my tests because I found out that moving forward leads to some good. Struggles prepare us for the finish line. A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. Trials prepare us for rewards. William Shakespeare once said, "Heavy is the head who wears the crown." And I'm saying I won't surrender because after 65 long years of requesting for this road to become paved, I count it a privilege to be able to stand here today in this space to make this request publicly known. Today is the first day of February, the month where many African Americans celebrate African American History Month. And it reminds me of Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream of justice for all. Today, I am walking in his light. I will keep hope alive. Therefore, I'm standing here today and I'm speaking up. I'm standing here not to be antagonistic, but to affront the South Carolina Department of Transportation of Chesterfield County with this present situation. I'm standing here not to provoke, but to help alleviate this problem so it will end instead of having it ignored. I'm standing here not to worsen or prolong any further waiting, but to mollify and try to reduce the pain the residents are presently experiencing. I am standing here to ameliorate, to enhance, and to improve the relationship between our population along Everett Baskin Road and the South Carolina Department of Transportation of Chesterfield County, because for 65 years now, it has not been successful. And finally, I am standing here because it is the right thing to do. It is time for a resolution. It is time for a transformation because I believe evil will not win. Thank you for your time and attention today. I hope that you will do what is correct and stand with me and do what is right, just, and best for all residents and property owners of this great county, and that you will diligently have Everett Baskin Road paved because we all win when we all work together.
Thank you very much, Ms. Baskin. We appreciate you coming and sharing your concerns and information, and we will pass this information along to the appropriate commission.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we have public comments. Is anybody wishing to make a comment? If not, we'll move down to a public hearing on the Project PAC Special Source Revenue Agreement Ordinance. This will be a public hearing, so we need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rivers' motion, second by Ms. Burns. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. Is anyone that wish to address this agreement? Hearing none, I assume the same two will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay, we'll move down to item 9A, the lease purchase ordinance for the sheriff's vehicles, second reading. We had the first reading on January the 4th, and this is the second reading. Is there a motion to approve the second reading?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, have Mr. Ford and Mr. Miller. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. We'll move down to item 10A, standing committee reports. Ms. Burns?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met, and we had several items that came up. The first item was the detention center. This was brought to us by the Sheriff's Department. There is a need for them to have radios, not just for their safety of the personnel, but also safety of the inmates. So the Finance Committee is recommending that the county approve the purchase of the radios and that the funding come from the ARP funds.
Okay. Is that in the form of a motion, Ms. Burns?
That is a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Burns, second by Mr. Curtis. Any discussion?
How many radios are we talking about, Mr. Chairman?
Be 15 radios.
Yes.
You need a figure, Mr. Rivers, you need a money figure.
Yeah.
Okay. Tim, you have that, don't you?
It'd be just under $12,000, between $11,000 and $12,000.
Yes, sir.
I think this is a great thing. We saw a need when we went and did the tour of the detention center, that there was no communication ability, or there was little communication ability within the walls of the detention center. And so there was certain instances where, when we were in between two doors, the officer that was giving us the tour could not communicate with the person in control room to be able to let us go through the next door. And so the officer actually had to use his phone to call the control room to be able to get us to pass through the next door. So it's from the safety of the officers and the inmates, I feel like this is very important.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Ms. Burns?
The second item is concerning retiree insurance. It's come to our attention that some of the retirees are not paying their insurance, and it goes for months. And then, of course, the county picks up the tab for that, right? So the Finance Committee, which met on January the 30th, voted unanimously to recommend the following. 1, require the retirees to establish auto draft or bill pay for the insurance payments. 2, if payment becomes delinquent for more than 60 days, the retiree's insurance will be terminated. The retiree will be unable to reinstate insurance until open enrollment, which occurs in October. And 3, if the retiree has a delinquency, the delinquent amount must be paid in full prior to reinstatement of the insurance. So if the insurance is canceled or terminated, they can have it reinstalled during open enrollment in October, and it becomes effective in January, just as any changes we make to insurance. So that is the form of a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Conklin. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Ms. Burns? You on the roll now?
Also, in that same meeting, on January the 30th, the Finance Committee met to consider allocating funding for reimbursement for basic EMT training for the fire departments. So we had the following recommendation, that we would allow 2 members per department per year to be trained as EMTs, basic EMTs, that the members must complete the training and the member must remain with the fire department for 1 year after certification is obtained. So once they get certified, they have to stay with that fire department for at least a year, and then the fire department would request reimbursement for those fees. If they don't stay that year, or if they don't complete the training, then of course the county would not reimburse. That is the recommendation, and that is my motion.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. Mr. Ford, is second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. One more, Ms. Burns.
Last one. On January the 11th, the Finance Committee met, and we had a request from the Sheriff's Department to purchase 5 vehicles using ARP funds. Now, the Sheriff's Department is in dire need of vehicles. I don't know why they can't keep them, but they need some. And so we did meet and did approve purchasing 5 for a total amount of $282,833.60, which not only includes the vehicle, it includes upfitting the vehicles for the Sheriff's Department. Okay? That is my motion.
Okay, we have a motion, there's a second. Second by Mr. Ford. Any further discussion?
One quick statement, if I may. This is something that's been ongoing. As a matter of fact, the previous administration had asked for cars and with a extremely lot bigger budget than what we're looking at here. And the vehicles are high mileage. I'm sorry, they are severe duty vehicles, but then they get wore out. So this problem was inherited, so to speak. And my understanding with speaking with the sheriff, he is doing some things to reduce the cost of the vehicles as far as upfitting it, using the stuff that he has and not putting back some of the particular markings that were on these vehicles. So he's trying to do his best to cost share also. But I felt like council like to have that information.
Anybody else? No further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Excuse me. Item,
Let Ms. Burns keep going. She's been on the road.
yeah, she is. We're gonna give her a break, and we're gonna turn it over to Ms. Anderson for her report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We've heard from citizens here in our chambers who live on Hillian Edwards Road, and they're concerned about wells drying up or lack of water access. And so the Planning and Zoning Committee met January 23rd and voted unanimously to recommend to council that we approve using one of our CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant funds, to allow Chesterfield County Rural Water to move forward with the project to provide water to the citizens on Hillian Edwards Road.
Okay, and this would be no expense to the county, is that
Right, at no
correct?
expense of us, it's a grant. But, you know, Chesterfield County Rural Water would be going out to make sure that they had the support from the folks on that road. We've heard from some of them, but just to make sure that they had the full support. But we feel like this will open up an opportunity for more projects later. So this is just the first one.
Okay, is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir, it is.
So a motion by Anderson, second by Conklin. Any discussion?
Just a quick statement, if I may. You know me, I always like to say something. But this is an improvement. My understanding is to tie 2 hydraulics together to give them more water supply and more pressure in the western end. Am I correct?
That's what I understand.
Yes,
too,
ma'am.
sir.
I have no problem with it.
And also the
Wait, hang on. That's not right. This is to provide water.
Hillian Edwards, okay.
This is Hillian Edwards. This is to provide water taps to the folks who live on that road. Sorry, that's why I was looking at you, because I was like, yeah, that's right.
and
Sometimes it's better to be silent, thought a fool, than speak up and move all down.
And the council is working on compiling a list of priorities throughout the county so that whenever, if this project is approved, when it's finished, then we can move on to the next thing on our priority list. Any further questions, discussion?
Yeah, this is probably not gonna be, the most favorable thing I'm gonna say, but it's okay. I'm really not sure that it's advantageous for, council to get involved in a whole lot of water situations. I understand the need on Hillian Edwards Road. I think there's a lot of need throughout the county. And from my understanding, these folks have been diligent about reaching out, that they really need this on their road. And I can understand that and sympathize with it. But I also say that, county council's not in the water business, even though this is a grant. It's a grant available to other issues throughout the county. So when it comes down to this, I think that there could be some more discussion. But, if we can move forward, but I would like to say that, there could be other avenues for this grant also, even though it's at no expense to county council.
It's my understanding these grants can only be used for water and sewer, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. And we'll move down to item 12A, a public software subscription. Ms. Stanley?
Okay, this item was originally approved at last year's budget, but at that time, it was, where including their hardware and software. Well, since then, QS1 has changed their contract, and at that time, the monies was gonna come from ARP because it was just gonna be a one-time cost. But since then, they've redone their contract, and so it's $67,000 for 3 years, and it's a 3-year contract. Well, at first, we were gonna have to expend the funds, we thought, this fiscal year, but it looks like that they will not get through with the training and the conversion until actually of August. So this item is on the agenda to take to finance for the money. We've got a net shortfall of roughly around $29,000 that we got to come up with. But that item will be addressed at finance. What item we need to address here currently today is the signing of the contract to get it started.
Okay. Any further discussion, any questions from Ms. Stanley?
That's our recommendation. Move forward.
That's correct.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Mr. Curtis, second by Mr. Conklin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Move down to item 13A, sandblast rally request. Mr. Eubanks?
Yes, this is what the agenda was amended for, and as Mr. Ruffner said, they're wanting to use a section of Underground Branch Road for an event through from like 6 to 9 that evening. I spoke with the director of the road department, Mr. McCarns, and he had spoke with them, and he said he didn't see any problems whatsoever for them to do this. So we're recommending letting them do it.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Anderson, second by Mr. Conklin. Any discussion?
Just want to be clear that the residents in that area will be notified.
The section that they're using is not going to affect them, according to Mr. McCarns.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I think the reason they're doing this is to maybe be able to provide another activity for the folks next year. So they're hoping that this might generate, something else that they can do and increase the number of entries. So I think it's worth pursuing.
Anybody else have anything? Not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That's good. These folks have been very, very good to our county, and we appreciate them having their events here. We'll move down to item 14A, a letter of support.
Yes, Mr. Griffin with the Paisley Chamber of Commerce has requested a letter of support for a traffic light at the intersection of 601 and Dove Sutton Road. And that, he's asking the council to give that.
Okay. Anybody, any discussion? Is there a motion that we accept this and provide this letter of support? Okay, Mr. Ford made the motion, Mr. Rivers second. Any other discussion?
I'll say this is well documented in that is a dangerous area. And I think the state has even lowered the speed limit through there, or there, I read somewhere they were talking about it.
They have lowered it, and we are seeing some enforcement of it. If you'll go to Harvey's about 6:30 in the morning, you'll see cars flying through there.
I got you.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
further discussion? Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Conklin, second by Mr. Rivers. Any other discussion? Hearing
Mr.
none-
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Along these same lines, I've been in contact with our representative, Mr. Richie Yao. He has had several people to contact him concerning this intersection, and that being that the painting of those lines down through there in dire need of being upgraded. Spoke with Mr. Yao again yesterday. He has been in communication with the folks over in Chester, and Chester assures him that that is in the process of being done. The contract is to be let in a couple of months to redo those lines. We've had several people that have had accidents in that area because you can't see the visible lines when you're coming down that road. So I thank Representative Yao for his work and getting that done, and hopefully we'll see some progress in that area in the next couple of months. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for those comments. Anybody else with comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Let's see, I don't think we have any board appointments. Administrator's report, Mr. Eubanks?
Got one thing, at the January 4th meeting, council approved Mr. Sammy Copeland to serve on the Land Use and Planning Commission. I received a note from Mr. Copeland, and is gonna be unable to serve as a member on that committee, so therefore, Mr. Curtis, you're gonna have to.
Yes, sir. That's in the works.
Okay, good deal.
Anything
And
else?
I appreciate it.
That's all I've got. Okay, thank you. Any council member wish to comment? Hearing none, there is a need to go into executive session. Mr. Ruffner, would you please explain that?
Yes, sir. First, it would be item 18A, and that is pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 30-4-70, subsection A1. That is to discuss employment, appointment, compensation, promotion, demotion, or release of employees. And then item 18B is pursuant to subsection A2. That's to enter an executive session for the discussion of negotiations, instance of proposed contractual arrangements, receipt of legal advice, which would be subject to attorney-client privilege, and that is regarding contractual negotiations with American Medical Response of South Carolina Incorporated, which is the county's ambulance service provider. As noted on the agenda, council may take action on both or one of those items after exiting executive session.
We need a motion to enter into executive session. By Ms. Anderson, second by Mr. Rivers. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. We'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll enter into executive session. We are now out of executive session. While we were in the executive session, no motions were made, no votes were taken. Is there any other discussion or any other comments? Ms. Burns?
I'd like to ask Mr. Ruffner to summarize.
Good move.
It's my understanding, based on the discussion in executive session, that there may be a motion needed to offer to extend Mr. Eubanks' contract for an additional year, if he is willing to accept that. And I guess we could include as part of that motion that it would be assigned to the Finance Committee to review his salary and perhaps make an adjustment to that. So it's really two things, but I think we could include that in a single motion, if that suits Ms. Burns.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's a motion from Ms. Burns. There a second? Second by Mr. Smallwood. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. If there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Burns, second by Mr. Conklin. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.